Yeah, first this hour I'm joined by Liberal Democrat Senator David Leyonhjelm. Senator, thanks for your time. You heard a bit of what Eric Abetz had to say earlier. He can't remember being notified of any deal with you. And then if there was a deal, it wasn't much of a deal because they were planning to do that anyway in terms of that sunset clause. What do you make of that?
Yeah. So he's got it around the wrong way a little bit. So what I negotiated with the government was for the sunset clause to kick in after 12 months. I asked for 6 months in the deal, but they wouldn't agree to that, so they agreed to 12 months. So from 12 months from the time that the regulation was passed, the import ban on the 7-shot lever-action shotgun was to be lifted. And then a week before that 12 months was up, they reimposed the ban, and that's why I've been dudded over the deal. But had they not reimposed the ban just this August, July or August, whenever it was, end of July, had they not done that, the import ban would have been lifted, and there was no end point on that. Yes, the government was talking about going to COAG and changing the National Firearms Agreement, and so they had that in mind in the agreement with me, but there's no certainty that that was going to occur. There's still no certainty that's going to occur. And what I got was a lifting of the ban, but there was a 12-month delay before that kicked in, and it was then it was contingent on what happened after.
I want to ask you about some of the detail though, because we've seen that email that was sent between Michael Keenan's office and your office. What about you personally? Did you have any face-to-face discussions with either the Prime Minister at the time or ministers, cabinet ministers, in relation to this, that he said to you, this is a deal done?
Yes. Yes. I'd actually forgotten about that until this morning. I was thinking the emails they summarised the situation, or the nature of the deal at least. But I think it was the day before these emails were flying backwards and forwards and we settled it. It might have been 2 days before. The Minister Dutton was lobbying me and the other crossbenchers for our support on this biometrics migration bill. He was lobbying quite hard, as a matter of fact, and I was pretty much indifferent to how it went. I didn't think it was worth worrying about, but he thought it was a big deal. So we said, well, look, let's see what we can negotiate in exchange for our support. This is normal political horse trading. That's the way things are done. Always has been, always will be. So we raised the issue of lifting what had been announced as the import ban on the 7-shot lever action, and so we'd raised that on the phone. And then I went to see Bob Day in Bob Day's office, and we were sitting there having a chat about the details of this. Bob and I worked closely together. He tended to support me pretty much on everything, and vice versa. I briefed him on it. He said, "Yeah, sounds good to me. We'll stick together on that." Well, within half an hour of me being in Bob's office and having gone through all the detail with him, Peter Dutton came to Bob's office, and clearly Peter Dutton was intending to lobby Bob Day. We walked into the office and he saw me and Bob Day sitting there together. So he sat down and we talked it through. I must admit I did most of the talking on behalf of Bob, and he didn't agree on the spot. In fairness, he didn't agree on the spot. He said, "Oh, I'll think about it." He was a bit agitated, shall we say.
Yeah.
But he went away. He said, "Oh, I'll go away and we'll see what we can do." And he had to talk to Keenan as well, obviously. And then that led to the exchange of emails, which I've now released, which confirms the deal.
So did you speak to him subsequently, or was that the email done by the junior staffer?
Well, it wasn't junior, it was senior staffer. It was somebody with authority to act on the minister's behalf.
Well, sorry, I meant junior to the minister, but not worded properly. Yeah, no, so you're saying that was the only then follow-up to lock in the deal that you'd floated to the minister?
Correct. But then they acted on it by implementing the regulation, which had it took 12 months before it kicked in to lift the import ban. So there was a 12-month delay of the status quo, and then at the end of those 12 months, what was supposed to happen was the import ban was to be lifted.
Tony Abbott's, you heard what he said last night. No deal. Well, it wasn't. He was never going to accept it. Do you think? Is your sense that the Prime Minister's office at some point would have been made aware of this arrangement that you believe was entered into by those two ministers?
Yeah. Well, it's quite conceivable that they didn't know anything about the emails and the confirmation of the deal, but a regulation was introduced. The regulations have to go to the Executive Council. The Prime Minister's office has to know what's coming to Executive
So at the
Council.
very least, they would have been aware of the regulation. Maybe not the background, that your discussion with Peter Dutton.
Correct.
But at least the regulation.
They would have to have known about the regulation, and that regulation was a direct response to the deal that I did.
Just last question. For those viewers watching this morning who think that it's, you know, Tony Abbott called it your obsession on this particular gun, given the current security climate, why would you be arguing for a multi-action gun to be brought in?
Well, lever actions are not new. They've been around for 100 years. Lever action rifles are, relatively popular. There's nothing new in the technology. 12-gauge shotgun is a 12-gauge shotgun. There's nothing new about that. We win Olympic gold medals with 12-gauge shotguns. This is no more powerful. You can have a 10-round magazine on a rifle and a pistol. Why couldn't you have a 10-round magazine on a shotgun? What's so special about it? What they're doing, I mean, if they left the National Firearms Agreement alone, shotguns would all be treated as shotguns. It would remain in Category A. Nobody would sweat over it. But what they were trying to do is expand the National Firearms Agreement. That's what I'm resisting.
Okay.
I'm not talking about lessening the gun laws. I'm trying to stop them from getting worse.
Senator Leyonhjelm, thanks for your time and that clarification this morning. We're going to turn our attention to the US now. The stage set for the third